everybody! Welcome to another segment of Flick Can Gamers' disagreement on other reviewers' opinions because they over-criticize an episode over something so minor because they don't know how to get details right. This is a horseshoe-in. So this episode begins with Starlight basically talking to a plant.
Oh, I'm gonna call you Phyllis. Don't you know who Phyllis? Come in. Come in.
It's like she's treating it as, well, they're her own pet. So, anyways, Twilight basically comes in, and essentially what was brought up in the beginning of the end is actually coming into fruition, where essentially, because Twilight is essentially about to take up the throne, she wants Starlight to be the new position as head mayor of the Friendship School.
Oh. Her as head mayor of the School of Friendship. I want you to take over the school when I move to Camelot. I know. It's just so amazing. I'm a little... Do you think I'm really up for it? Of course you do. I've covered for you every time you've had to run off and save Equestria, but, I mean, yes, of course. Thank you.
Now, I want to comment on that line because one of the complaints, and this is where I'm going to begin, mainly from the Voice of Reason's review, as well with Thespio, is that essentially they criticize that essentially Starlight has only done it one time in a matter of principles. Technically, she's done it twice in both Season 8, in both A Matter of Principles and School Rays, even though School Rays, she ended up getting kidnapped by Cozy Glow. So, just wanted to get those minute details, but it's minor details like that make me a little bit annoyed. I should also mention the point that we're way past the point of the cutie map where we're sick of Starlight being considered this evil pony, given that we're pretty much almost done with the show, and it's been 4 seasons since the cutie map in Season 5 ended, and I think pretty much a majority of the fandom has accepted that Starlight's on the main cast. To anybody who still criticizes her, suck it the fuck up. So we get this adorable moment of Starlight pulling in Twilight and Spike.
I can't think of any ponies would be better for the job. I'm a little nervous and excited. I'm mostly just nervous. I understand. Of course, I'll have a lot of important responsibilities as ruler of Equestria, but I'll always be available to help whenever you need.
So anyway, while Twilight has to basically do, well, royal things from Celestia and Luna, naturally Starlight has a bit of a struggle with it because she's concerned that the position of head mayor is a lot for her to take in when it's just on her own. After the theme, Trixie basically comes in to talk about, well, Trixie's things, and Starlight fills her in on what's going on.
Determination toward what I can only assume is Twilight's office. Obviously, our lunch is super important, but so is taking over the school. And the only pony who's really run the School of Friendship is the Princess of Friendship. And I'm worried about doing it all alone. So I want to get as much advice from Twilight as I can while she's still here. But Twilight's never really done anything alone. She always has her friends.
And this ends up getting Starlight an idea, as essentially she talks to Twilight about it as she struggles to do princess things, but Starlight basically figures out what a Trixie suggested.
Me hiring a vice head mayor to help run things. I trust you to run the school any way you want, and if that means hiring a vice head mayor, I think it's a great idea. Really? Like you said, I've always had ponies around to help. And don't worry, you can always call on me.
Twilight, Rarity says you were supposed to be at the boutique 5 minutes ago for your second fitting for the coronation gown.
How many fittings are there going to be?
A lot.
Oh, the classic case of the coordination. But yeah, basically Starlight's suggestion is essentially just to hire a vice head mayor to help her out. And honestly, a lot of schools do this as they have vice principals, so it does make kind of sense. Trixie overhears it and thinks that she's automatically getting the position, giving herself the continuous delusions of grandeur that she's automatically going to get the position just because she's Starlight's friend.
I heard the whole thing, and all I can say is, I am humbled.
No, you're not.
I hadn't ever considered it, but hearing you say it out loud made me realize what a great and powerful vice head mayor I'll be. Plus, we get to work and socialize at the same time. Well, sure, that would be fun, but I can't just give you the job. Oh, no, of course not. I imagine there's a lengthy process to go through before you inevitably hire the best pony for the position.
Wink. Wink.
Let's break this scene down one at a time. You may have noticed that Trixie is not aware of the process of hiring on a new vice head mayor. Rather, she does, but she naturally doesn't care, because she automatically thinks that Starlight is just going to give her the position. Second thing to note is that when she constantly winks, and I say constantly because the thing with comedy is that jokes have to solve in rules of 3. If you do it more than 3 times, it stops being funny. And immediately in the span of 15 seconds, she already does the rule of 3. And spoiler alert, she continues to make that joke at least 4 more times in the rest of the episode, so it's now at the point where things stop being funny. So, because of this, Trixie doesn't really take any of this seriously, even though Starlight is very clear and set that she wants to do it the way of the actual process goes. And literally, getting a job is a long, lengthy process in any field. So the fact that Trixie is not taking it seriously leaves a ton of red flags to realize she's not the best fit for the role, but Starlight hires her on anyway, as we find out that the other candidates assigned for the role include, but not limited to, Big Macintosh, Octavia, Time Turner, and Spoiled Rich. I'm sorry, what?
The vice head mayor. Honestly, if you're looking for some pony to fundraise, I can bring in enough bits to have several buildings named after me. Well, that's not the primary responsibility of the vice head mayor, but any pony is welcome to apply. I think the selection process I've come up with is pretty special. Albeit unnecessary. Wink.
Yeah, and just like that, Trixie does the wink thing 4 times, and now it is no longer funny. Also, does Spoiled Rich feel that she has this delusion of grandeur that Trixie is not as bad by comparison? So Starlight essentially breaks down to the 5 candidates in an actually rather clever process as for Starlight, further proving that she has grown a lot since the cutie map, you stupid delusional fuck haters. Getting ahead of myself.
Since you all have to prove you have what it takes to be vice head mayor, I've designed the interview in 3 stages. Each stage will test a different skill the vice head mayor needs. Only those who do well will move through the stages until finally the best candidate rises to the top. So, without further ado, it's time for stage 1, substituting for the teachers.
So essentially we get a montage of essentially Starlight walking by, basically seeing all the candidates in their roles as basically substitute teachers.
You really learned how
As we see Big Mac actually do a pretty good job, and Spoiled Rich is a capitalist bitch.
Foundation of friendship and trust. But nothing gets more loyalty than a big stack of bits. This book on business will teach you all how to earn your own. Chapter 1, Equity.
Okay, now you're just forcing me to play this.
Nobody said there be math! I blame our schools!
So anyways, we see that the rest of the professors do a really good job, and Trixie does just as bad as Spoiled Rich.
Ooh, a bunch of boring stuff. For a really long time. Okay, I know history's important, but I never learned any of it, and look how I turned out.
You're currently living in a trailer park with nowhere to live. So, naturally, Trixie ends up basically, well, not taking it seriously as Starlight walks by, and P.S., she does the wink think again in this scene. So, well, naturally, Starlight is in agreement that Spoiled Rich is now out of contention for obvious reasons, but she's struggling to try to figure out whether or not she can Trixie right away.
It would be so much fun to have my vice head mayor be a friend. She just needs a little more hoof-holding than some of the others, but it could still work out, right? Starlight, I've given this a lot of thought, and even though I still believe naps are a valid use of class time, You'll be the one running the school. So if you say no naps, then no naps.
Now, to Trixie's very little credit, as much as it pains me to say it, nap times are usually kind of a thing to help deal with mental health, because sometimes when you're really exhausted and you need a bit of a nap, it'll let you take some time to decompress and help get your thoughts together. And the fact that it's Trixie who comes up with this is essentially a problem. So Trixie still believes that she's in the right to essentially basically get this position, even though she clearly has no clue how to do it, but essentially Starlight basically feels guilty and decides to move her up to the next level. And Phyllis doesn't seem to agree with that. So then we basically cut to find out that the next stage is essentially student-teacher conferences, as we basically see the candidates talk with the parents.
And although she started out singing her part pianissimo, Obsessive is now soloing fortissimo.
That's good, right?
Indeed.
The science curriculum at the school is somewhat lacking, but Yona has taken to the subject like a yak to smashing it. If fostered, I believe she could easily blaze a trail and expand our understanding of science itself. Next best! Next best!
Oh, that's enough to extract their own ego. Alright, so now it's time to talk about this scene, because apparently this scene has sparked a lot of controversy. And you can tell from the one reviewer I have pointed out, but let's talk about it, because essentially, this is the scene where essentially Trixie basically talks to Grandpa Grubb about Gallus' progress.
Gallus is a fantastic student. He's even taught me a thing or two about napping.
Is that why you're putting me to sleep?
Excuse me?
I don't know why I have to come to these things.
Well, most parents or guardians want to be involved in our students' lives. Maybe we should find a different representative from Griffinstone to be Gallus's guardian.
Oh, that'd be great. If you find one, let me know!
Yeah, and meanwhile, while this is going on, there's another student-teacher conference going on across the way.
You hack! Hit me again and I'll kill you!
If you hadn't been so damn weak, you never would have gotten caught and caused all that trouble!
Yeah, I'm sure that's going on in another room. I'll get more into this when we get into it, as we do find out that Big Mac actually struggles with open communication when talking about Silverstream, and he's pretty much now out of the running.
Gallus doesn't need to know I'm proud of him, and he certainly doesn't need me trekking all the way to Ponyville.
Good, because you're no longer welcome!
Alright, so one of the controversies about this scene is that essentially the voice of reason believes that Trixie yelling at a student-teacher conference, especially at Grandpa Gruff. This is what I have to say about that quote-unquote complaint, as a couple people basically commented on that piece. The fact of the matter is that, while, yes, admittedly, Trixie should have handled it better. So, and I'm taking her side, believe it or not. Like I said, could she have handled it better? Yes. But at the end of the day, some commenters are saying that she at least showed for Gallus' well-being. And seeing Gallus' reaction of basically Grandpa Gruff not caring how he's doing just really kind of hits home, and it really hurts a lot. Seeing Gallus' reaction of essentially Gruff not caring. So even though it wasn't the appropriate setting, and while normally that would have you fired, not every school has as a simple, easy way that has, because there are teachers that will lose their cool, and they're essentially potential toxic environments. There are more variables than just a simple, straightforward school. So not everything has to be in the point of view of the voice of reason where everybody can't keep their cool. I had to get that out of the way because essentially one of the things that they looked over is that essentially, like, that's what I hate about it. Because even though it's clear that Trixie doesn't really know how to control herself in terms of her emotions, and like I said, I'm siding with her on the Grandpa Grubb situation, even though, yes, It wasn't the appropriate setting. She shouldn't have done that, and normal scenarios would have her fired. The fact of the matter is, seeing Dallas's reaction of seeing Grandpa Gruff not care about what he's doing, it basically shows that Trixie does actually care in that sense. As a snarky Philo said in that same review, her confrontation with Grandpa Gruff's treatment of our resident Blue Griffin, even if it doesn't go well, she does have the concern and caring of her students' well-being, just not the experience and training yet to refine her for her job. We'll get more into that into a second, where essentially, Starlight talks to Big Mac, and essentially because he's not that good of a communicator, he's now off the list. And Trixie basically comes in, well...
Starlight, I know why you wanted to see me, and you don't have to worry. Oh, good. It's thoughtful that you'd want to check in on me after my shocking confrontation with Grandpa Gruff. But never fear, I shall recover. Trixie, that's not exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. You can't get into a shouting match with parents or guardians.
Even if the guardians are kind of complete and total assholes and they absolutely deserve it. Like I said, under normal circumstances, no, you shouldn't be doing this. But in a situation like this, when we're in a cartoon about talking horses, I think the situation is justified, and it shows that Trixie does care in that aspect.
For the final stage of the interview process, you'll each have to put together a field trip. And if you really do want the job, I need yours to be exceptional. Because if I had to pick a vice head mayor right now, it wouldn't be you. Oh, I see what you're doing. Obviously, you're not going to give the job to some pony else, but you want to see my best.
You do realize that even when Starlight is straight to the point and saying that there's a chance that Starlight is not going to pick Trixie, Trixie still has it in her head thinking that she's still going to get the job.
Message received. Wink. Trixie.
And she does the stupid wink thing yet again. Like I said, it already stopped being funny, so why did they bother to continue doing this joke?
Trixie, the great and powerful Trixie is about to pull out all the stops. I hope you're ready for the most exceptional field trip to ever grace this school.
This is gonna be good. I'll make some popcorn.
Because it's going to be a natural disaster. So essentially now the school field trips are underway as Octavia basically starts off really strong, where she puts on a very good music jam with DJ Pone 3 with what we saw in Slice of Life back in Season 5 with the cross of basically EDM and classical.
Okay, I take it back. What have I heard?
And Time Turners is naturally more about time traveling, and let's just get to the point where we know Trixie is going to blow it, where essentially she doesn't really take the students anywhere, but instead take a part of Froggy Bottom Fog into the classroom, and basically bring in a nest of flash bees, endangering the students' lives.
Trixie, what did you do? Look, I found the perfect little patch of fog to teleport into the school. I guess I just didn't consider the possibility that a hive of flash bees might have nested there.
Trixie, I'm kind of wondering at this point, Trixie, since we've known you since Season 1, even though I've been asking this question in every episode you appeared, other than a handful of episodes, but are you always full of shit? So naturally, the Flash Bee starts terrorizing everybody, and while Trixie runs away, Starlight has to be the one to deal with the problem.
Starlight? Hey there. So, they're going? Yes.
So naturally, because bringing an entire bog into the classroom, bringing in a bunch of Flash Bees, and endangering students' lives, and running away in the process, this naturally brings Starlight over to her tipping point.
Nice teamwork, am I right? Are you kidding? I don't know what team you're on, but it isn't mine. This was a disaster. It was dangerous. I think the words you're looking for are great and powerful. It wasn't even acceptable! You went from not taking it seriously to blowing things so out of proportion you put every creature never be vice head there. But I thought you created the position for me. Why would you think that? I created the position because I need help. But I can't think of any way that you would ever help me. Twilight's friends always helped her. Oh, that's because Twilight's friends are competent. They care about what they're doing, and they know how to do it.
Yep, that's everybody's reaction to stick it into Trixie's face. This is essentially the same outburst in All Bottled Up, except this time it actually sticks. Yes. It really does stick because Trixie now realizes that she done fucked up, seeing Starlight's natural blow up, instead of what it was like in All Bottled Up where she learned nothing because it wouldn't be fun. Blow me on that. So Twilight essentially returns to figure out what happened as Starlight basically explains what went wrong.
A lot better now. Okay. I really wanted it to be a friend, so I ended up pushing aside some pretty big signs that it wasn't going to work out. Not every pony is right for every job, but every pony has something to contribute. The trick is figuring out what. What if you and your friend can't figure it out? If you have a job to do, you have to decide what's best and be upfront and honest, even if that means you can't work with a friend on it. So, I guess that means talking to them at the beginning instead of stringing them along until you get so frustrated you totally lose it and say a bunch of really awful things. Pretty much.
Yeah. I really like what this episode does teach, is that while it would be nice to work with friends, not everybody is fit for the job. And naturally, given what we saw at Trixie, it is very absolutely appropriate. But that's why you also have to try to maintain a level head and not blow it out of proportions unless they absolutely deserve it. So anyways, Starlight basically goes to talk to Trixie as Trixie goes to the woe is me pity party, even though most of this was entirely her fault because she was filled with delusions of grandeur and that she automatically assumed that Starlight was just going to give her the position on a silver platter.
I'm sorry for all those things I said. I just really wanted it to work out, even though I knew it probably wouldn't. I should have said something sooner. Obviously, we can't have what we want, because I'm terrible at everything and could never help you with anything.
You were the one who just assumed that you were automatically going to get the position, no questions asked, and I'm just wondering, like, is this girl, like, really full of herself? Because now she's going to do the poor old woe is me because she really believes that she is so entitled to having everything. But Starlight eventually does talk her down.
Dallas even said no creatures ever stuck up for him the way you did with Grandpa Gruff.
I'm pointing this out because it goes to show, whether intentional or not, seeing how Grandpa Gruff really didn't care about what Gallus was doing, seeing his reaction showing that Trixie was in the right about that, and that it's one of the things that was justified. It's almost like people who are reviewing this episode are simply ignoring simple lines of dialogue like that and are just automatically hating Trixie and, by extension, Starlight through nothing but blind hatred. And quite frankly, I'm sick of it.
It would have been nice to run the school together, but not every pony is right for every job. I know how you take your responsibilities seriously, and maybe I should have known I wasn't exactly a perfect fit. If it makes
You think?
No pony was.
But we do find out from Starlight that both Time Turner and Octavia actually dropped the positions because it conflicts with other commitments. So with some basically careful thinking from Trixie, we do find out that Starlight has a better idea, and that essentially is to give Sunburst the position.
I knew as soon as I read Trixie's scroll that it was the exact right thing for me to do.
But what about being Flurry Heart's Crystaller?
Well, honestly, now that Flurry Heart's a little older, there really isn't much for me to do outside of the occasional tradition or festival. And working at a school is what I
Starlight and Sunburst shippers are basically cheering, airing, and partying like it's goddamn 1999.
I had a feeling this would work out. Oh, Trixie, thank you so much. Between being insightful when I want to be and giving good advice when I don't mean to, I suppose I can be a pretty good friend. More than that, actually. You really did give good advice. And you helped me talk through the problem of finding the right pony for the job. And we know you care about the students. Trixie, the great and powerful advice giver, problem talk thrower, and students care about her. I think I'll go with friend. Friend is perfect. But there's a position here at the school you might be right for, too. What would you say to being the School of Friendship's new student counselor?
What's that? Oh, I think it's just Cespio and the voice of Raisin screaming in the distance, wondering why Trixie isn't in the right position for that. And no, I am not letting that go. Because the thing is that, as I said, going back to Snarky Phil's comment I read earlier, one of the other things that demonstrates that Trixie does have what it takes to be an alright counselor was the nap time thing I mentioned earlier, because it's showing concern for mental health. No. It's those situations and the Grandpa Gruff situation, while that situation wasn't handled correctly, she does have concern and caring for her students' well-being, just not the experience and training yet to refine for her job. But with a little bit of practice, I think Trixie could do alright. And naturally the episode ends with that, and it ends with Trixie throwing away Phyllis. And that was a horseshoe-in, and I don't understand why this episode has problems. I think it's a good episode. Now, yeah, this episode does have its problems. Like I said, even though I do side with Trixie about the whole Grandpa Gruff situation, it wasn't the best way that it was handled. Yes, I will agree with that. Trixie was mostly delusional throughout the entire episode until the near end when Starlight finally snapped at her where she finally got the message. But other than those things, there really wasn't anything that made this episode, like, mediocre or awful. I think for the most part, it basically showed how far Starlight has come since being the main villain in Season 5, and that she has taken her friendship lessons to heart and went through a very simple and straightforward process. Yes. I do also like the fact that we do get to see the other sides of what the other candidates did, outside of Spoiled Rich, but overall, I think it was a natural progression for both Starlight and Trixie. Now, was it the best handled? No, because, like I said, the whole situation with, while I do agree with Twilight not putting Starlight in the position, as well as then Starlight passing that on to Trixie, I do think that Trixie could have handled a bunch of different situations, but she basically highlighted what happens if you don't study history. And on top of that, the comedy was very, very weak in this episode, especially given how they did the stupid wink gag like 7 times in this episode, and it got less and less funny as it went on. But as a whole, I think this is another one of those episodes that I think is really underrated, and I think people just take it way too seriously, and even the most minute criticisms are just blown out of proportion. So honestly, I probably have to say a horseshoe-in is, I think, a B in my opinion. Does this episode have problems? Yes. Are there things that ruin the episode? Oh, absolutely not. I think this is really a good episode overall. Yes, it has its problems, but nothing that's really, like, character-breaking or anything. This is essentially everybody's in character, as annoying and insufferable Trixie is, but she does at least get the message, and I think it shows potential of signs of growth. So yeah, so as a whole, I think a horseshoe-in is about an A. Not an A, a B. Because believe me, I would be very generous if I was just to give it a B. Alright, so next time, cannot believe how many episodes are left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, this is depressing. We're now out 20 episodes down and only 6 to go. And next time we are looking at Daring Doubt.
Welcome to hell, motherfucker!
going to describe that episode, so we'll look at tearing out next time. Bye.